Hutchison with Automation Alley. Glad to see you. We bring you a conversation each Thursday morning to talk a little bit about how COVID-19 has impacted us and moved us from a particular environment into what is now going to become our new normal. And there are various ways that's happening. Our guest today is going to talk a little bit about digital transformation within factories. Is Hush Mehta. Hush is with Tech Mahindra. Good morning, Hush. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Cynthia. Good morning, viewers and listeners. Glad to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you here. I'm going to first let you, talk a little bit about the company and the services that you provide and how that ties into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. Once again, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening if you're other parts of the world. Tech Mahindra is a technology solutions company. We believe in making our customers more effective and efficient with the use of technology. This technology could be anywhere in the value chain, sales, marketing, manufacturing, supply chain, logistics. We have global operations, about 90 countries, about 140,000 employees all over the globe. That's really our DNA. It's all about the people. And unfortunately, in this crisis, with being such a people-heavy company, we had our own share of challenges to make sure that the work we took on for our clients, was not disrupted heavily. And having to have 140,000 employees work from home was quite the challenge.
And yet you accomplished it. Now, before we do, I have to remind, every week I forget to tell people this. We do take Q&A if we have time at the end. So please, if you have any questions for Hush or me, but usually they're for somebody who knows more about specifics than I do. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them up on Zoom and we'll catch them and get to them at the end if we have time. So you mentioned 90 countries, 140,000 people. How complex is it to manage that level of, you've got office jobs, you've got manufacturing jobs, you've got people out on the road. How complex is it to manage the legislation and the ruling, the legalities within each of those countries, and then overlay that onto the individual people?
Yeah, that was very complex. Number one, we are a global company, and there is different legalities across the globe. The other second problem was, there was no static legislation. It kept changing. New discoveries are being made every day on how to deal with this virus, and that information had to go out to people in real time. So that has been and is still a very challenging part, not only for us, but for all our clients as well.
Well, and you and I have talked in the past about a number of digital platforms you have that were almost ideally suited for this, not in anticipation, but prior to this, because you were looking at it for manufacturing. Can you talk to us a little bit about Tech Mahindra's WorkSafe digital platform?
Absolutely. So, when we designed WorkSafe and Return to Work Safe, those were designed keeping us in mind first. Safety of our 140,000 people first. There are some locations which are very people heavy, and if you look at the traditional matrix of, on the y-axis, if you look at the number of instances you meet with people, and on the x-axis, if you find that, the duration at which your interactions last with people, if you're in that top right-hand corner where you have too many frequent interactions with many people and those durations are high, then you're going to be in what is typically called the hotspot or the danger zone, of humanitarian life. You're going to put people in danger in these work zones. So we had to make sure that offices where we had lots of people and where people were interacting a lot in conference rooms and stuff, were going to be kept safe, lest we came back to work anytime soon. So back in March, when this whole crisis started to unfold, one thing that really came out from this crisis, the silver lining, is we found innovation to be at its best, not only in just our company, but everywhere else in the world. And one of the things that the employees did is try to come up with technology and data that will help preempt us to say where are the hotspots in the company, where is this axes, where are those zones where people are highly interacting, and the longevity of that interaction is high. So with digital technologies, we could start identifying such hotspots in places where we would return to work and start to put those zones in highly in focus and make sure people are aware that you're in a hot zone. Stay away, reduce your time spent here, wear a mask. This zone definitely has to have a mask wearing. Well, we generally advise people to wear a mask uh, overall in the time spent at the office, but especially if you are in those high contact zones. So it were things like that that we were trying to come up with. When we were going to open up our facilities, we found that being a technology company, we could continue working from home, which is the safest place for employees to be. But that's not going to be the case with manufacturing. If goods are not manufactured, there will be another impending crisis on our hands, with the economy collapsing. So we had to do something to get the manufacturing plants back in action. So we shifted our focus from internal to external and said, how can this technology now benefit some of our customers? Same rules applied. Where are the hot zones? Can you track and trace? Can you keep continuous monitoring of all the ever-changing guidelines? Can I make this very interactive to make it a checklist based operation to say, am I safe, am I not safe, can I share best practices? So all of that started to happen very quickly, and we shifted our focus from internal to external and started to tell our clients that using WorkSafe could be an easy way to get back a manufacturing plant in operation.
A couple questions came up during that. One is, so how would you measure, for example, I'm in my office today. There are probably half a dozen people in the building, and the building is huge. So we are social. I think I'm always socially distant. My office is a private office. I'm in a conference room right now with the door closed, but I do walk up and down the hallways. When I do, I wear my trusty mask, and I always have a mask. How do you measure a hotspot? What density it takes to become that, and how do you track that?
Yeah, I think when you have a digital layout of your office, factory, plant floor, what we encourage people to do is to simulate where the day in the life of an employee is, right? Typically in a plant floor environment, it's very predictable. You have people working at workstations, what their workflow is, exactly how people walk up to a certain bin to take parts, assemble it, where do they go? You can actually start simulating that, and in that simulation you will find hotspots developing when you simulate that happening before you actually start up and call up a plant, right? We recommend that before you state that your operation is up and running, spend some time simulating where those zones are. Some typical zones are always going to be cafeterias and coffee zones and all of that, and very smartly a lot of companies have shut those down. They've said no cafeterias, for example, in a lot of manufacturing plants, right? You eat at your desk or some sort of mechanism like that. So you've automatically eliminated those hot zones, because now you know a little bit more about the fact that you want to keep that hot zone, the high interaction longevity of interaction zone, minimized in any company. So it's very important to get to that decision first, preemptively start to get such zones shut down. Now if that zone happens to be the place where you actually produce and manufacture, that's where the problem comes up, and that's where you really have to start to look at new ways in which you can keep the interaction short and don't have too many people interacting with too many people in a zone. That's kind of easier said than done, but that's what a lot of people are trying to do in case of simulation.
Can you walk me through what that platform looks like and feels like? So what I pretend I know nothing, because I'm probably closing in on that anyhow, on how this works. So let's say I come to work. What does it look like? I'm in a manufacturing company. I'm going back and I am going to be doing a pack and pick. So I'm going to be using a bin and transferring, walking back and forth. What tools do I physically have with me? How has my life changed from the moment I park my car? How is my life changing?
So, most importantly, what we want to tell, employee health and safety managers and leaders and plant managers is that, this tool is not only for you, but also for the employee. They need to feel safe. So from the time you walk in, right, there could be a myriad of possibilities here, Cynthia. We have to also keep in mind, privacy in all these examples that I'm giving out. But just for the sake of illustration, I'll give out some illustrations, but not recommending that all of these be put to use, because employee privacy has a big bearing on what you actually put into play. But right from the time you park your car, there are cameras in parking lots where you can see, you can understand, you know, how employees have interacted in parking lots versus converging to the turnstile doors, the quintessential turnstile doors where employees enter into a plant. Hopefully, most plants are, doing temperature checks and scans to where employees can enter. And then you move into your workstation. Again, there are, maybe there are cameras there, or nowadays there is more wearables, sensors, your phone, or company provided devices that can help, understand where you have been. Now, all of this is very important because of the nature of this virus, right? It takes 14 days to show up. That previous 14 days you were symptomatic, and that's really the root cause behind some of this technology, right? You'll have to go back 14 days from a time a person has been identified positive and say, this person may have been carrying the virus all along, and now how many people are going to be impacted, right? So some of that is really where we need technology now to enable us to understand where would this person have been in the last 14 days. And without that, what typically tends to happen is the moment you find another case in a newly opened plant after the crisis, you're finding they're shutting it down immediately. And that's happening because there is no better way to say that I can keep other people safe than saying, okay, I'm going to take the worst case reaction, which is to shut down the plant again, sanitize everything, wait till I understand exactly what happened to this employee, and then restart the plant again. That's going to be very expensive and very detrimental to keep doing that on and off switch. So those are some of the life cycle of what this technology can afford. So again, you can, all your camera recordings, if they are permitted by employees, all your temperature readings are in a database, as opposed to being a daily event where you say my temperature is high or low and send me back home. Now what we are advocating is look at the trend. The trend can be your friend, and you can see from a trend of temperature to see whether this individual may have been fighting a virus. When you see the spikes go up and down, is that an indication that the person's fighting a virus? Can you preempt that? When you see such a trend, can you ask the person to proactively go and get a test done, right? So now you're getting ahead of the curve. But what we find a lot of people do is static test. Peep, no temperature today, go in. But that temperature was never recorded. So with the platform, we are expecting that temperature to be recorded against an employee record. All of this, of course, with employee consent and everything. So again, we are firm believers in employee privacy. But now we are saying, start to get all these actions that you're doing recorded, start to get them into a database so that when an unfortunate event happens, you're quickly able to trace and find out, what may have been happening prior to this event occurring, and be able to find out the other causes or the other fallouts of this action.
So does the platform provide a place to doing digital workflow. Does the platform provide a place to store like a data repository once you collect that data?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's built on database technologies, so the platform will allow you, and it'll also integrate with a lot of what you already have. So a lot of people have digital workflows already captured. A lot of people have employee records. There's always an employee database. The platform really just allows you to start to connect, these CDC guidelines, the workflows, the checklists. All of those real-time data is allowed to be linked with some of your already existing platforms, like your employee database, like all your digital workflows, and all your space layouts. All of that can be easily integrated so that decision making is much faster. But essentially, the platform was built to keep track of all the CDC, WHO, and local guidelines. Be able to have questionnaires, be able to have employee self-declarations. Those were some of the early features of this platform. Later on, we enhanced it with the ability to do a lot of IoT-based, wearable-based tracking, and some of that, were later features that we kept adding. And even today, we are adding features to the platform.
And you've mentioned privacy a couple of times, and I've wondered about that because, I think when we're in a time of extreme stress, anxiety, and fear, we're much more likely to give up our privacy. Are you finding resistance to that, or are most, don't share secrets with me about people, but are companies comfortable and having success telling people this is the way we're going to keep you safe at work? And are most people willing to comply with this privacy?
Yes. For the most part, I think people have been very understanding. Companies have been very understanding. It's important that companies explain to them, what's going to happen with this data. The trust that, again, this is employer-employee trust, very critical here, saying that, what is the self-destruction norm that the company will employ, post this crisis abating. And that those are some important factors that people have to take into account. But we've found that employees have been, if well understood, they will definitely comply, because the risk of non-compliance and still coming to work, without wanting to declare where you have been in the last 14 days, that you were outside the state, you were in a hot zone, you were definitely not social distancing. Without all those declarations, you're going to put a lot of other people at risk. So it's not just about being selfish about your privacy, but about, how is that going to impact, society and humanity at a whole.
Interesting. One of the things that and again, I think you and I have talked about this before. I've been fascinated by the fact that, manufacturing is such a unique industry, and that it is hands-on. That's what it is. We make stuff. We're in Michigan, we make stuff, and we're proud of it. We do a good job of it. But because it's hands-on, and when it's busy, it's very, very, very busy. And we find that this format might be the only time manufacturers come to see us, because it's 30 minutes and it's on there. You can watch on their desktop and get back to work. We don't get a lot of manufacturing. We really don't get manufacturing people in our building, because it's much harder for them to take that hour and a half out of their day than those of us who are accustomed to working from a desk, off a phone, driving, having 2 meetings in the car on the way to the meeting. So it's different. Given that, I have found that the biggest impediment, I meet smart people every day who are running manufacturing facilities, know exactly what they should do, need to do, want to do, but inertia has been an issue. And I think inertia is an issue based on time. Just hasn't become a number one priority to digitize the factory or to digitize certain components. So, we tend to see sensors and traceability. There's almost a stacked version of what, we'll put sensors in, we'll do traceability, but IoT and connecting all them, no, that'll come down the road. My observation is that COVID-19 has moved inertia out of the way, because it's no longer, the inertia is no longer an option. In order to reopen your doors today, particularly if you're in Michigan, you have to comply with a very lengthy list of rules which require technology. Is that what you see?
Absolutely. There has not been a better time, to talk about digital transformation right now. Whether it is at how you sell your product, and contactless selling, which is a thing now. How do I do contactless selling? And I think that is one of the most fascinating outcomes of this unfortunate crisis, is how e-commerce, how logistics companies have all been able to rally. Once again, it's all about that matrix. How do you keep interaction, many to many interactions, low, and how do you keep the time of interaction low, right? You can't eliminate everything, but on that matrix, you want to be in that low column where you are trying to minimize the risk of the infection. So with that mindset, we are planning most of the or as we like to say, reimagining most of the journeys of customers, employees, and partners in any value chain. So it's never been a better time to reimagine those right now. And digital is the best way. You're trying to use technology which can circumvent the need for physical interaction. Test drive. I want to buy a new car. It's an emergency. Instead of going into a showroom where you'll interact with a lot of people, that x-axis is moving too high. You have areas where can you book a test drive online? Can somebody drop off the car that you want? Quickly sanitize it. In front of you, the steering wheel, the seat, all the areas that she has touched, and then you feel safe to do the test drive. Put the car back. Text the dealership back. I'm done with my test drive. Pick up the car and take it away. And you do your part. You sanitize, that particular car again, or at least the parts that you did touch, maybe the console and stuff like that. Be responsible. But again, you've hence been able to, get good on that curve. Lowered the number of people you've met in this transaction, and lowered the extent of that interaction with other people.
So frequency and duration are really
frequency. Frequency.
That's your.
That's the curve. That's the genesis of all the solutions out there right now. So you're reimagining how to keep both these axes at a low, whether it's sales, operations, logistics, be it any of those. So you have to reimagine those journeys.
It's funny you use the car as an example. My sister bought a car a couple of days ago and did exactly that. She had the car delivered, she did the test drive, and it was actually for her daughter. And then she had her daughter come and do the test drive, and then they wiped the car back down, and then they went through and they did it all. They had very little contact with anybody and were able to buy a car that way.
Correct.
You're right.
Absolutely.
We have to imagine how the experience could look.
Absolutely. The same thing will happen with service. You don't need to go into the service station. It'll be digital. You'll get your, you'll try to give, most of your details on an app, on a website. Service technician will come in a van, and if they can't solve it right there, then, they'll tow your thingy and take it to the service station and give it back to you. Those are some of the ways, even service will be reimagined in the future.
I want to go back to some of the manufacturing. We're talking about collecting data and how critical that data is to keep people safe as they return to work. Do most manufacturers have the ability to collect the data already? Where do you think that is on a different continuum, the data collection process?
No, I don't think they have been able to collect the data on a regular basis. Again, to your point, digital workflows and stuff was always postponed. We don't need it right now. I can understand. Nobody could foresee this. Now that what the future may hold, there's no guarantee this will not reoccur again in 5 years, and now you're better prepared for how these technologies come to be. So yes, we are a little underprepared there, but it's better late than never. So
I want to get back to the Tech Mahindra's WorkSafe platform. Is that Does that work with the existing systems inside a factory, or does it
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a database, kind of tool. It's a workflow kind of tool. So it will integrate with all of your current systems, your HR system. Most importantly, it has to integrate with your HR system, because employee records. You want to be able to show, if you have a track and trace technology through our platform, you want to be able to relate that to the employee ID number, and be able to quickly talk about, hey, this employee XYZ, where does she sit? Who are people surrounding this employee in a typical layout at the office? Who should I intimate if this employee in question is tested positive? So those kind of quick actions, swift actions need to be taken. That's possible when you've really been able to connect all the tracing and all the tracking with the employee ID numbers, and hence be able to quickly take corrective action if the situation have to come alive at your plant.
My husband would like a track and trace on me, just to know how busy I am in a day. So I don't let him know about that. So what's the next action people take? Because I think this is really important. If particularly manufacturing, but you're right, across any sector, if a company isn't yet doing any track and trace, is track and trace, well, in your opinion, is track and trace the most important thing we can do today?
Contact tracing is very important. I think contact tracing is how you avoid the possibility that your plant starts up and shuts down.
Right.
Look, it's not going to be a possibility that you only hope for the best. You'll have to plan for the worst, right? And so planning for the worst means there are going to be cases. This crisis is far from completely over, and Michigan has done a great job in bringing down the number of cases, if talking about Michigan, but other parts of the country still have cases. So you are going to see people contracting this and showing up to work without even knowing that they have it, until the symptom reaches a point where they get tested, right? And for that reason, I think we are telling employers also to be a little more proactive with contact tracing, because once somebody has it, the next best thing you want to do is to preempt the others, and say, hey, you'd better get tested very quickly and see what corrective action you want to take, because this is still a lot about the humanitarian nature of what we are trying to do. We are still trying to keep people safe. It's people over profits in all of this right now.
Yeah, there really is. It's been a very unifying experience to see companies find the best way to do things. People find a way to mitigate risk to themselves and others. And I think it's been as horrific as this experience has been for the entire globe. I think there has been some unifying pieces that were unexpected consequences that might have made us a slightly kinder and gentler, there's my little Pollyanna for the day, but a slightly kinder and gentler society where we really are putting people above profits, because we'll never get back to profits if we don't. We're putting people above profits because we care about people, but we also, to your point, the reopen, shutdown is a terrible cost waste. And I think it's also demoralizing to the people who are going through it.
Absolutely. There'll be a complete breakdown of confidence, of the people. So what we are telling employers is that, given that you have, better technology, it'll just boost the confidence of people to come back to work too.
No, we're not gonna get to questions. I've got one that I'm going to try to fit in here. Can you show any kind of example of a simulation or the database right now on a screen with no warning? I can connect you with the person who asked that after, but if you have any way to show any example, that would be awesome.
No, I don't think I would have those ready. Databases, I would need to be connected. But great question. I will definitely try to follow up with a simulation of that. I wouldn't be able to run something on my computer right now in that short time.
I'm sorry, I wasn't looking, I just caught that question on the corner of my eye. So the person who asked it, Jamie, I will make sure that I connect you with Hush after this, and you can have that follow up. And if you do send us some kind of screenshot we can share or anything along that, I will include that. By the way, everybody who's on today, you will get an email from me. I thank you for viewing email, as well as a link to Hush so that you can connect with one another. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Have a good day.
Thank you.